The kitchen cabinets in a previous house featured a single shelf that was only about 12 inches wide, so nearly a third of the space in the cupboard was unusable.
Adding a pair of simple pullouts to each cabinet not only expands the storage capacity, but makes everything much easier to reach as well. And making the pullouts is really no more difficult than making a standard drawer box. Since pullouts are generally hidden within the cabinet when not in use, I chose to make mine from good quality half-inch plywood. For a high-end kitchen, you can certainly make them out of hardwood as well. I started by ripping the front, back, and the two sides to 2 3/4 wide. The fronts will end up narrower and the sides need to be shaped, but the joinery is a lot easier to do when the parts are still rectangular. I'm going to show making pullouts with both a box joint and with a drawer lock joint. The drawer lock joint looks nicer, but doesn't quite have the strength of the box joint. It is, however, very easy to make using a drawer lock bit. Once the bit is set up properly in the router table, the fronts and backs are milled laying flat, and the sides are milled with the same setup, but standing on end. In both cases, a backer board keeps the part square and prevents blowout. The box joint gives a rustic look, and it is very strong. And with the box joint cutter set, they're very easy to make. Mill the fronts and backs first, starting from the top. And as always, the mating half of the joint indexes off the first cut. Keeping your parts oriented properly as you mill the box joints is important, because when you cut down the front and then shape the sides, you want a full finger at the top of the front piece, and you want it to match side to side. Now, when creating a box joint in plywood, possible tear out is always an issue. Scoring the ends of your parts a ½ inch in with a marking gauge dramatically reduces the issue. Once all the joinery is done, each part gets a groove to accept the bottom. A 1/4 inch wide, a 1/4 inch deep, and a ½ inch in from the edge. Now, the base material for your pullouts would typically be 1/4 inch plywood. But if you think you're going to be storing particularly heavy items, you always have the option of making the bases 1/2 inch. The sides, curving down into a shortened front, add a bit of elegance to your pullouts. But you want them all to be the same. So a jig with cleats added to locate the side parts is cut to the provided template shape and sanded smooth. This jig will safely hold the sides while providing the template for flush trimming them to final shape. The sides are marked using the jig and then rough cut on the bandsaw, leaving a little bit of material behind for flush trimming. Now the fronts can be ripped to fit the sides. The easiest way to do this is to simply set the rip fence on your table saw using one of the sides as a guide. The front pieces are then ripped. Notice that I ripped them with the bottom groove facing up. This just helps to ensure that I'm ripping the material off of the top. With all of your parts cut, milled, jointed, and otherwise ready to assemble, this is a good time to get all of the pre-sanding done and break all the edges on your parts prior to assembly. It's just a lot easier to do before your pullouts are assembled. Other than the decorative detail of the front being reduced in height compared to the sides, building pullouts for your kitchen cabinets is no different than making any standard drawer box. And like any other drawer box, the overall depth of the unit is pretty much up to you. These were made to 2 3/4 in order to give me a 2-inch deep box after accounting for the base and the support under the base. But you can make yours taller or shorter to suit your own needs. Now, when installing your pullouts, it is a little bit different than a standard drawer. You'll need a spacer on each cabinet wall, 1 inch wide to clear the door on a Euro-style cabinet, or whatever you need if your cabinets have a face frame. Lastly, remember that pullouts are not just for kitchens. They add a lot of convenience in your shop cabinets and are much more convenient than kneeling on the floor trying to find something all the way in the back.
Adding pullouts is the easiest and most economical way to add value to your cabinets. You can download the free template that accompanies this video by visiting woodcademy.com.